Episode 3, boring.
Yes.
A New Hope.
A New Hope. In the beginning, but yeah. But no, it's. I'll be honest. I'll start. I was not a.
Wait. Let me actually start the podcast.
Sure.
we're in media res of podcasts.
Yeah, let's go do it. All right. Good.
All right. Ready? Okay. Welcome to episode 3 of Young Ones. We are the old young ones. I am John Clark, and here's my co-host, Howie Weingarten. How are you, Howie?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. We're going to talk about boring, and I really feel like, but if we title the podcast that, it's going to get no hits because it's going to be like, please listen to our boring podcast. And aren't there enough of those? But one of the things that's going to make this interesting is on our show today, we have an old friend of mine. We go back, almost 20 years. But he is a supervising producer at Late Night with Stephen Colbert.
Senior producer, yeah.
Senior producer. Okay. So he doesn't really supervise, but he's old.
That's true. Senior producer, right, yeah. But old, yes, correct, yes.
Yeah, senior producer, Mike Brumm.
How are you,
Mike?
Hey!
Good to see you guys. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Mike, now, Mike, you go back to Comedy Central. How long have you been with Stephen?
See, this is like 2005, since I came like right in the first season of the Colbert Report. So
wow,
yeah, it's 2005. Yeah.
Nice.
But it's been awesome. You know, Colbert is a really hilarious, great man. You know, so it's super fun. The staff's awesome. So yeah, it's been great. It's the dream.
Yeah, and the show's been really solid.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, speaking of shows that are not quite as solid, boring is the third episode. The Young Ones. Oh, and before we get into it, Mike, what is your introduction to the Young Ones?
So,
like, when did you first see them?
I wasn't really a big Young Ones fan. Like, I remember I was a huge Python fan. I used to watch Python like crazy. When you watch Python, everybody says, "Oh, you should watch the Young Ones." You know, like because of that crazy British humor. You know, and then you tried watching. I tried watching it when I was a kid. I tried watching a little bit. It was just like a bunch of people yelling. You know, and I just go, "Okay, well." I kind of turned it off. You know, and I never went back to it. But this is like the first time I really went back and watched the full episode. And it's insane, but also in a wonderful, weird, chaotic, like doesn't make any sense, but they're trying a bunch of stuff against the wall in a sort of like wonderful way. So I really appreciate it just for its like craziness. But yeah.
That's one of the things that's so unique about it. We've been talking about how it's kind of this punk sitcom where it's like it's reacting against even the ideas of having a sitcom. And it's coming, from Thatcher's Britain, and it's coming out of this alt comedy scene in the late 70s in England. So all these guys were influenced by that. So there's some sketches where they're just attacking the structures of things. Yeah. And I feel like this episode's attacking the structure of having a structure. Because there are so many, there's a lot that works and there's a lot of sketches that work, but there are so many things like, oh, you could have spent 5 minutes here and it could have gone somewhere.
Yeah.
And they come back and you go, well, they'll probably pay that off later. And they don't.
No.
Okay, you mean like the old man? The old man, I go, where does that go? Like, does that get paid off at the end? Like there's the old man at the beginning who comes in. He's like kind of like a Merlin figure. And then at the end he shows up again.
Right.
Is there any reason for that arc or whatever? Was there any?
No, there are no arcs. No. There are just moments.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah. The devil, what's his name? Ftumtch or whatever.
Ftumtch.
A little bit, which is kind of nice, you know.
That is the most spine of the show is Ftumtch, and I love Ftumtch because Ftumtch is played by David Rappaport, who was in Time Bandits, which is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was a huge character actor. But that's the closest we get to a story. So as we go through this podcast, we're gonna just be saying things.
All right, yeah. Let's just say things, yeah.
This for me, like going through this, like this, starting with this episode, I say, we're only 3 episodes in. This was, I don't know how they would make a more uncomfortable episode, because this one was really like, I was sitting there like, I know I like these guys, I know I love these guys, but you're asking a lot right now. I don't know where you're going.
I hear you.
I was going for the ride.
Yeah, I was watching it. It was like the 14-minute mark. I go, yeah, how much longer is it? It's like 20 minutes. Dear God, how can they keep this up for 20 minutes? But
well, I noticed in this one they kind of did what Ricky Gervais used to do in The Old Office, was just kill the rhythm anytime they could. So
because they were bored.
Yeah,
they just wanted to be bored.
Being bored. Sometimes they would just sigh and it would be dead air, and it's like, oh, you could see the rhythm starting to pick up, and
God, I'm so bored.
it reminded me like we did years ago, and Mike, you saw this. We did a short film about a comedy team where they were both the straight men, and when we were editing their sketches, there was a sketch that was starting to work, so I kept throwing in reaction shots in bad intervals to completely undercut any amount of comedy that would happen, and I feel like that's what they were doing here. Because like just every now and then they'll say I'm bored, and then it would cut away, or they would just stare at each other.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell like was the premise sort of be like I couldn't tell if like a normal episode is this crazy or if this episode was so crazy because like they're boring, but they're trying to show like all the things that go around them that aren't so boring, you know, but like just in the flat themselves they're boring, but everything else is really exciting and happening around them. But is it just every episode is this crazy like that, you know?
Every episode's pretty random, but we're finding that there's usually two plots. It's almost like it's like a SpongeBob where it has 2 11-minute episodes, but they're stream of consciousness cut together where you realize like 20 minutes in, you're like, oh, we're not talking about, you know, moving into the last episode we talked about, they move into a house for 15 minutes. And then the second 15 minutes, they strike oil in the basement. And there's almost no connection.
There's no connection really.
And then it just ends. So there is that, but this is really like a bag of rocks thrown around.
It was just throw it on the wall, see what sticks.
I know.
This is probably one of the more challenging ones of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we start out with as I will probably say every episode, the ugliest puppets I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And
probably the mice playing cards.
Yes. And then the cat and the dancing carrots.
They're potato or whatever it was. Ice
butter or something. I'm not sure what. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
oh my God. I just don't know.
Like the idea is like this is what goes on in the house when they're asleep. It's like a Toy Story thing.
Asleep,
yeah,
you know. But Neil, he's not even like really asleep. Like Neil just like sits and stares out the window. I don't even know how asleep he is. But everyone's just oblivious. That's whatever the point is. Everyone's just like, you know, like we're so bored. Nothing ever happens around here. But apparently a lot does happen.
Yeah,
and no one notices.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like a very Beavis and Butthead kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff going wrong, going happening, and it just is like, but they never notice.
Yeah, I do love Neil just sitting out there, just looking at the moon or the sun or whatever. Like it's pretty great. Just sits outside.
Morning is broken.
Yeah,
yeah. Neil is the most interesting character because he's both like the passive type, but then he's also like really passive aggressive and depressed. It's like I feel like the genius is to take the hippie character, which is like a Cheech and Chong trope, and it's like let's just throw suicidal depression in there.
I mean, one of my favorite jokes in this episode was just where he goes like, "Where's Neil?" Oh, they're playing Monopoly. He goes, "He's out the back digging a grave to kill himself or whatever." He goes, "I'm just digging it now to get ready or whatever in case he decides to kill himself."
He's like, "I'm not going to kill myself now."
Yeah.
Which is in case.
They just leave it there.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reaction.
Yeah.
But when they were playing Monopoly, I thought that was hysterical. Like
yeah, and again, there's
$40
that could have been 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, Rick.
It's like 2 minutes, and then they're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like what the hell?
Well, the first thing that I think like has weight and it almost pays off. And I always love this is the cornflakes competition.
Yeah.
Cornflakes.
Yes, where he has to say in 10 words why he likes cornflakes.
He only said 9.
And it's very much a Beavis and Butthead thing. But I think the genius of that is everyone agrees cornflakes is one word.
Yeah.
I also love Mike doing the cereal they were going because he always she loves me lots. She loves me like there's never she loves me not. It's always she loves me lots.
Yes.
He loves me. So he wins every time and playing with cereal is pretty great.
Yeah, it's very in character.
That's awesome.
But they do that. So they immediately start fighting. And Rick has a line. I just love that. Like, what are we doing? Arguing, bickering like children. And it's like, he was like, we weren't like this. Yes, we were.
Yes, we were.
We've always been like this.
It's funny because, like I said, I think in a previous, like, there's never a moment where they just had that moment where it's just like that come together moment. This may have been the closest they'll ever get to it.
Yeah.
Where it's just kind of like, is there any sort of camaraderie?
No, yeah.
Nah,
There's a
There's none.
commonality. They're all suffering the same way.
you know. Answer the door, Rick. Answer the door, Neil.
Yeah, answer the yeah.
Yeah, that's
You
almost
know?
like Abbott and Costello worthy. That
That
beat.
was great. And
Answer the
who's
door,
that?
Neil. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the guy that comes in, he's sort of like the fifth member, or he's like a character player that's in a few episodes of that, or he's in a bunch of
Alexi?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alexi Sale is a weird thing. So when they got the show, like I said, they all come out of this alt scene, and Alexi was the big guy in the scene. So like they were like, oh, we have to have Alexi, we have to have Alexi. But he's got his own style and his own rhythm.
He does.
He
He
does.
does. He does.
So it's like when he comes in, it's like the show just stops and parts.
and you
And
go
then,
like,
like he literally just stops and starts doing stand-up directly to the camera.
Who ordered a taxi?
yeah.
You're just like, what?
Yeah, I know. Like, where did that come from? Was there? Yeah, but
Okay.
it's entertaining though.
All right, fine. That's fine. Okay.
I did notice a Doctor Who reference in this.
Oh, the Daleks. Like,
Yeah, it says "Let's play Daleks," and he sticks the cactus in his shirt.
That's
Oh God, that's funny.
That I had never noticed.
I did not notice that.
Yeah,
I never noticed it when we originally discovered it. Was Comedy Central rerunning it in the 90s? Like it was the period where Doctor Who was just gone.
Oh, really?
So it didn't register at all, and now it's become this. You know, it's British Star Trek. It's just omnipresent.
Yeah.
It just seems so random to like for them to name something major in British culture.
Yeah. Do you guys know how sorry to go back to this, but how
no, go ahead.
Film it from a live studio audience, or was it like
We've been trying to figure that out. There's so many cutaways because it's definitely shot 3 camera. Like it's a standing set. But there's so many cutaways, and then there's so many effects. And I imagine just the slapstick between Adrian and Rick, like that has to be set up. You know, you can't run through the whole episode. Like when Vivian like shoves Rick off the couch, there's got to be a mattress there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like a stage play, though. You know, a lot of it does seem like the stage play. I don't know, maybe it was just like shot in the 80s. That's how it sort of looked, but it does feel like I guess a multicam kind of looks like a stage play.
Yeah, we talked about this, especially in the first episode. I think because these guys had been coming out of a live scene, the first episode particularly, they're playing directly to the audience.
Yeah,
like that's what these guys know how to do. You know, Rick and Adrian were a comedy team, and Alexi was a stand-up, and Nigel Plano did characters, but it was kind of like Seinfeld. They didn't know how to talk to each other yet.
Yeah.
But it definitely has this like stage, which helps because they're playing everything so big.
Yeah.
That I think for it to be shot more intimately, I think would just break the style.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like there's like if you listen to like if you listen to the laugh track, the thing is that you hear this one woman just constantly giggling, you know, and it's just like somebody's watching this and somebody finds this like, you know, this part funny, but it's like this one person laughing.
So it's the same recording.
Oh,
yeah.
But
you remember when we were kids and Hanna-Barbera would put laugh tracks on their cartoons?
Yeah.
And it was always the same laugh. And I remember when I was little, I would start to get annoyed because it'd be an episode that wasn't funny at all. And you'd hear the same person laughing. And I'm like, first of all, how are they seeing this that they're being recorded? And second of all, why are you laughing at this?
Yeah.
What's so funny?
Yeah. Ranger Rick.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, but it's the thing is that like this episode, I don't know. I just like, for some reason, I think that they actually were trying to test people's patience just to fuck around like that, you know, just like, it's just like, you know what? I don't know the chronological order in which they shot the series. Cause I know Demolition came first cause that had one set, and then everything afterwards is just like, everything's given a number or an order, but I don't know exactly.
And the first series was greenlit together. So
don't know exactly what was really first. I mean, they could have, you know, shot Boring as the last one and then released it as the third one. That's what I'm saying. Right. The thing is that like, I really think they were trying to screw with everyone. I really think so, because it was just kind of like, you know, it's just like, there was a movie, Man on the Moon,
Oh,
where
the Andy
Jim Carrey
Kaufman,
says,
Jim Carrey, yeah.
what's the secret of being funny? And the guy says silence.
Huh.
You know, and this movie has so much silence, or not movie, the show episode has so much silence in it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, are they really just completely fucking with us?
I know.
And I, in a way, it's just like, I really hope that they are, because it works brilliantly, but it's also hard to get through it. I myself was almost like, I got 20 more minutes of this.
I know. Well, we read about
I'm going to the musical act.
I know. Madness is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
But-
man, this is one of the best musical acts they had.
Yeah. Well, John, you said this, and Howie, it's the same point you have. Like, I didn't really think about it, like, but there was like the counterculture, and they're like fighting against the norms of what a sitcom was like. So anytime there's a traditional sitcom thing, they like fight against. So that's why it feels so disjointed and so weird. But like, it's interesting. I never put it in that context before, but that's an interesting context.
Its flow is so like disjointed.
Yeah,
There's no linear kind of.
And the expense to do that, because there's most of it takes place in the sitting room, but like the first big cutaway, they cut to like the most interesting place in the world, which in their minds is a Renaissance fair in a cave.
Yeah, right.
And it's like that.
What was that? I thought they were in hell or something. I was just like, it was
I
just
know,
like,
but like they hired, there's like 5 actors that you don't see again on a set you don't see again.
There's a gurney, somebody's juggling
again.
Was that Miranda Richardson who said he's bored shitless?
No,
I thought it was for a second.
Yeah, it looked like they would get these like it's like middle-aged actors who I'm sure were just given sides, but it's like, but that to do all that, like that's you have to set that shoot up and then just go, yeah, we're never coming back to this. It doesn't advance the plot. It doesn't advance our characters.
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it sort of worked. Like they were so bored up there, but here's down here is a really exciting, and they're wishing for boring when they're wishing for. It sort of worked.
You figure the story way to go is like they end up in the most interesting place, and then they make it boring, or or the interesting people show up in the house, and nope, nothing.
Nope.
Yeah,
that would be too easy.
Yeah, that
would make too much sense.
That would make too much sense. Yeah. That was an interesting kind of way. I got to say, the Brits, they really had their like transition game down, though. Like, really, American sitcoms have not really done so. But like the Brits have been Python, and even the young ones, like the transitions in between scenes and then going to other scenes, whether you're going to somebody's mouth, or whatever, or you're going to somebody's stomach, it's pretty interesting. Like they always had a really good transitions.
Yeah, is that when they went into Rick's mouth? And then all of a sudden they were torturing that guy with the pie and the stuff.
Yeah,
it was just like,
but it was in hell in a kitchen, and I'm like.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Did you know who the band was on the wall? They had some sort of band picture in hell. There was a poster on the wall, but I didn't know who it was.
Oh God, I know they were playing Barry Manilow in his headphones.
Oh yeah, they played
Barry Manilow. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
But and with the BBC, it's like the BBC was so like run where the network just used everything. It's like, okay, are they in a kitchen because they have a kitchen set? Are they in this cave because they have a cave set? Or do they get guys to like build that for 2 minutes?
I don't know. Maybe they ran around the studios and said, "Hey, what do you got?"
Yeah.
Well, also the guy that came in as a taxi. Didn't they go? They went to his stomach too, right? And there was like a fish and a potato.
Yeah, because he drinks the goldfish, and then we cut to the goldfish, which is a puppet, and there's a potato, which has a very stereotypical Irish accent.
And of course, he swallowed the whole potato. Potato's not even in pieces; it's one full potato.
Yeah,
in his stomach. So like that shows you like, well, his dietary.
Yeah, goldfish and potatoes. I know. Yeah, that was
nutritious.
That was insane.
Yeah, and so and that whole scene, as it said, like he gives up. He gives up after that and looks at the camera and just does this bit about living in, council flats, which it sounds like this is something he's been doing on stage for a while.
Yeah. They just found a way to put it in there. I know, like,
he takes the hat off. All of a sudden, he's just like loses the accent.
It does. He does. Yeah, and you go, "What's happening now?" I know that. Yeah, it's kind of the same with the 2 police officers. Like, I didn't know what quite that scene was, and then and also their accents were so thick it was hard to hear a little bit. But like, But yeah, I didn't know what that scene was. It seemed like that was a
Mhm.
separate scene just kind of put
Yeah,
in
and
there.
again, that was a comedy team, and again, they had their own style. And I think it was because they came out of this community together. They're like, you do your thing, you do your thing,
Yeah,
but there's no attempt to integrate it in. Like those cops, they don't. I'm gonna stop saying things don't pay off because nothing does.
Yeah.
But
In this episode, no.
those two appear in a few, but then we get a cop scene, which is a scene they do not show anymore. We'll get to that when we get to the end.
Holy shit!
Which where the cop drops the N-word.
Oh yeah.
Whoa!
But he has nothing to do with the other cops. There's no connection to that. And the comedy team in that, they're really good, but they're so quiet. And it's like
they are quiet. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure what that was, or but it's
so monotone.
Yeah,
just so monotone. It was just kind of like, there's a joke coming. I'm waiting.
Yeah, and there were some nice jokes in there, like, I got into a fight with my girlfriend. I said something about the Pope. Well, she's Catholic. Yeah, I know the Pope was.
Yeah, that was a good joke. That was pretty good.
That was actually pretty funny.
He's like, well, that's a laugh. Funny. What's that?
Yeah.
That's sound in the back of your throat. It's like, it works, but it's just this another thing. It's almost, well, they got more money for the bands to be a variety show, and I feel like this was like almost a variety show in itself because they didn't care how the pieces fit together.
Yeah, not at all. I know. Yeah.
And then it's funny because like when the band actually shows up, which is funny because like that song was stuck in my head for like hours afterwards, and it was just like stop. It's
a good song. It's not even their biggest hit. They'll come back.
No, it's not. But it was driving me nuts. It was driving me up the freaking wall. I was just like, the House of Fun or whatever it was. It sounded like something that like in a bad Halloween haunted house thing. Welcome to the House of Fun. It was just like, oh Jesus Christ, stop.
Well, Howie, now you know what to play in the foyer when you have your own haunted house.
Welcome to the House of Fun. But I'm gonna tell you though, this episode reinforced one thing: never give musicians any lines to act or say. Can you do Summer Holiday? I'll put you in the face to Summer Holiday.
I couldn't hear what he said. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he says I had the subtitles on just to figure it out. He goes, you hum it and I'll smash your face in.
Yeah, that's it.
And the weird thing about that was Ben Elton was one of the writers on The Young Ones, and joined up with Richard Curtis to give Madness their own sitcom, which never happened.
Oh, really?
And because they enjoyed,
I wonder why.
But because
I wonder why.
because it would be like Hee Haw with ska.
Oh my God, that guy with the
what ended up happening was
you go first.
Richard Curtis and Ben Elton liked working together. That Richard Curtis invited Ben Elton to write the rest of Blackadder with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So because Ben Elton's not a writer on the first season, but he does the next three, which are the really good ones. So like this writing partnership came out of trying to cast these people who couldn't act in their own sitcom.
That's crazy.
Yeah, when that guy says, if you hum it, I'll smash your head in, he was worse than Brett Favre in There's Something About Mary. I mean, that was the worst delivery ever.
The Michael Jordan and Eddie Haynes commercial. Yeah, I know. It's pretty bad.
Was that the Hitler mustache one?
Yeah. He's pretty bad at this. But we did get a great scene out of that, though, when they went to the bar. I do love the scene with his mom, like where he goes like Vivian.
That's great.
He's going,
I love that scene.
And it's well contained and it's really solid. And actually, the scene before, I really like it. The whole thing with the rickety chair and the siege outside, it's very Python.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Where, the army comes in and they're like, and he's like, that's not real.
Yeah.
They walk out, one's holding an arm, the other's holding his other arm. There's nothing left.
Yeah. That's pretty
my God.
Python. That was pretty great though.
Yeah, I thought that really worked. And then when they go to the pub, I feel like everything works.
Yeah, the pub's great, and the way to work in the band that way, to go to pubs, see the band, I thought it was really fun. That was awesome. It sort of reminded me of but like if you ever watched the old Space Ghost when he did Coast to Coast, Pavement one time, but it's very similar. To the bands and the comedy coming together. It was entertaining.
Yeah, and this is one of the only ones where they actually have a reason for a band to be in there. Most of the episodes, the band just starts playing in the living room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of our
yeah.
favorite episodes coming up, like Motorhead, is just in the living room playing Ace of Spades.
It's
Music.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's very like Star Wars sort of, maybe everything. I mean, this is later afterward, that Star Wars holiday special when is it Journey playing?
Yes.
But yeah, it's sort of like that. Like just
Oh wow,
is that who's
I
playing?
got
Journey?
that.
Maybe it's Journey. I don't know if it's
No,
Journey.
it's Jefferson Airplane.
Oh, that's right. Jefferson
When they were
Starship.
Starship.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Starship. That's right.
Yeah, and B. Arthur sings at that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Maud,
Yes,
Yeah.
Maud,
Maud.
pre-Golden Girls,
Yeah.
B.
You know?
Arthur.
Yeah,
and
that's
then there's Maud.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Bob. Yeah.
But I love
Yeah.
the pub scene. I felt like that probably should have been a whole episode because
Yeah.
everything about that work. I love everything about the mom being the bartender,
That was great.
and
Yeah.
she doesn't care about him. She doesn't know anything about him.
Yeah, it's like I had no idea you were in London. Yeah, yeah, I've been here for
Yeah.
Yep.
He goes, "How's Dad?" I wish you wouldn't ask. I have no idea who he is.
And,
Who
yeah.
was that?
I know she's in the Blackadder Christmas special,
Oh, really?
and she's amazing in that one. She's the
Was
one.
she the one who laughs?
No,
That
that
was
was
bad
no,
imitation.
the one who laughs was actually on Doctor Who. She's the one that's raising money for Tiny Tom's Christmas.
We're gonna scoop him out and make him into a houseboat.
Yes,
Got
that
you.
one.
Thank you.
Where she's raising money for Tiny Tim.
Got you.
Goes, if he eats any more heartily, I fear he will turn into a pie shop. Which is just a wonderful. But again, it's this episode. Every time you feel like, oh, okay, we've gotten something. We're on somewhere. Like they just get up
And
and
then
leave.
stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's when Ftumtch. How do you pronounce Ftumtch? How do you pronounce his name? Like
Ftumtch.
Ftumtch.
He comes back, which is pretty
Yeah.
entertaining because they said his name when he's reading the paper wrong, and he pops up. And then did they set that up before that you only have like 3 minutes to?
No, he just says, "Okay, got 3 minutes."
Yeah,
It's
and he
like
goes, where did that come from? All right, he has 3 minutes to do.
He
evil
sets
or-
up the rules. Yeah, because in the first scene, he's just complaining that he doesn't get summoned.
Yeah, and then he
Yeah.
gets summoned. I thought that was kind of nice. And then yeah,
Yeah, and it's
Was-
like, obviously they have the ability to take these ideas and run with them, and they won't.
yeah, that's right.
Maybe that's the genius of it then.
I
Yeah,
love David Rappaport in that. Some of the lines he has, he's like where he walks up on Neil and goes, "Oh, look, a little girl."
that's great.
You know,
There's just something so mean about it.
he just puts that thing right through his ears. You know,
Oh,
the
yeah,
uh,
we go to the
Big-
thing, yeah.
spike or whatever. So I was just
Yeah.
like, you know,
I love that sitcom. So was that a fake sitcom they were watching?
Oh yes,
the dog, the guy's pants fall down. And he's
oh my god, that
Yeah,
was
I-
hysterical.
I think that again is one of those like they're just taking aim at a typical BBC sitcom
yeah,
and just making fun of how bad it is. Of course, it has bestiality.
Well, it's just a stray dog comes in the door, and then his pants fall down. He's trying to get the dog out. It looks like he's humping the dog.
And then it comes the vicar comes in, I guess.
Yeah, and they all say the same catchphrase.
Like,
"Oh, crikey!"
That was pretty good.
Oh.
That was pretty funny. That was pretty great.
you know.
And
Well, they probably. I was going to say for them, they probably found like typical BBC humor boring, you know, for
Yeah.
lack of a better
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
And this is like really just you're really thumbing your nose at the standard quote unquote you know sitcom of what was on TV back then.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no,
storyline, pacing, everything. I know, like
you know, and it's always with that, and it's funny because it always goes back to Three's Company. There's always that thing of the innuendo. It's just like, you know, it's just like, oh my, you
Although
know,
when he says, "Vivian, do you swear?" And Vivian goes, "Oh, okay." It's a very typical joke, but the swear he uses is big jobs. Like either that's so British or that's screwing with me.
I'm probably screwing with you.
Because
Yeah.
what? I don't even know what big jobs could mean.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's a big job.
That's a great thing about this episode is that like it really does challenge the viewer,
yeah,
but it you know, boredom is a very uncomfortable feeling. And this is a very uncomfortable episode,
yeah.
you know?
That's
You know,
true.
there's one thing that I remember from this episode that I was just like, while watching it, I was just, oh my God, that's where I got it from. There's one line from Mike. It's late in the episode,
Yeah,
and he says, He goes, well, how are we going to deal with this? He goes, I'm going to deal with this problem the way I deal with my mattress. I'm going to sleep on it.
Yeah.
I've said that line hundreds of times. No one knows what the fuck I'm talking about. And the thing is I'm like, I was wondering, it's just like, I know it's Young Ones. Where did it come from? I know it's Mike. That's the episode. This
Well, you
episode.
get those embedded in your DNA. My son's been watching a lot of 90s Simpsons, and which is, holds up beautifully.
Yeah.
And every now and then I'll hear a line up be like, oh, I've said that so many times that I thought of it.
I recently watched Better Off Dead. You guys remember Better Off Dead?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Like everything that I find funny or my comedy development all came from that movie. Like it was such a, like a benchmark in like sort of my life or whatever. And I forgot it so much, but I love so much about that movie,
Yeah, it's fun to have that touchstone. I feel like every time I see the Muppet Show, I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I wanted to do comedy, create characters, and play music. And it's that frenetic. And we talked about this. Young Ones gets to that level, that Muppet Show level of energy.
Yeah.
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 And the funny thing is that like when you quote the Young Ones in public, people will look at you like, what the hell are you talking about? I said to a friend of mine at work the other day, I told you a million times, do not exaggerate. Nothing.
Well,
and it was beautiful.
When that is said, Rick says that in an episode and he gets nothing.
Yeah. So at least I got nothing.
That's one of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast. It was such a big touchstone, and everyone we talked to either said, oh my God, I love that show and I haven't seen it in 20 years. Or I've heard about it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. Well, because I never really watched it before, but it is really interesting. It seems like with the Mike character too, like I know Mike came, like they didn't seem to quite know what to do with him yet, or he's still like finding his way on this third episode a little bit. Like,
yeah, what I've heard was they had a fourth guy that was part of that scene, and for some reason he ended up not on the show, so they just hired Chris Ryan. But I love that Chris Ryan has this different energy. Because I feel like it fleshes it out. And he's a great actor. He's also appeared on Doctor Who. He became a big part of Absolutely Fabulous. So like,
is he on Bottom?
He's in Bottom. He's really solid, but he comes with his own kind of energy.
He does. It's like more they're all crazy. He's more the adult in the room, sort of, but also
he's almost the straight man, but he's just not. He's too angled to be the straight man.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like, Nigel Plan is like this big, tall guy, and you could see the difference in height.
Yeah.
When they're standing, next to each other, and Edmondson and Mayall are bouncing off of each other. Ryan's just this like, he looks like he's 5'2".
Yeah.
But the thing is that he brings so much to the scene and to the episode through his character. I mean, it's perfect. He's perfect. I mean, he's like the quote unquote dad, and he's he's barely got control of this utter chaos. Well, probably doesn't have control, but that's that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times he's part of the chaos.
Yeah.
So. You got to love him. I know sometimes, from reading on like the Facebook page, Mike can be a lightning rod of controversy.
Really?
He could be like, oh, yeah. He could be like, oh, I don't know why he was in it. He's just dead weight, blah, 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 blah. But you're just like, yeah, but you need something for these three other characters that are just insane. You need some sort of anchor, and he's not the Zeppo Marx or anything. Nothing against Zeppo Marx. He's not Gummo.
Yeah.
Nothing against
not Minnie. I know.
Yeah.
Nothing against Gummo.
Zeppo was a hell of an agent, I heard.
But the thing is that like, he brings his own thing. It's the funniest thing. It's just like in this episode when Vivian's mother says, "Oh, I want to talk to you," and she grabs Mike.
Yeah, not you. Yeah,
I thought that was hysterical. And one of my other favorite things in this episode, this is a friend I had called Mike. This is a friend I have called Neil.
Yeah.
This is a complete bastard named Rick.
That's pretty good.
It's almost like the way John and I would, It's almost like when John and I would fuck around with each other sometimes when we would introduce each other to other people that we didn't know.
We actually like each other.
We would just, but yeah, of course, but we would completely fuck around like that. It's great. But these two, they ain't fucking around. They don't like each other.
Yeah.
And that's like I said, that's the beauty of this. My wife can't stand the show.
Yeah.
She's just like, I had her watch what I thought was the funniest, Bambi, which we'll talk about in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And
That's
she's
the
just
one
like,
Motorhead, that, by the way.
yep. And she's like, I'm not into it. She goes, what are you watching right now? I'm like, I was going to watch the young ones for this week for the podcast. Oh, okay. I think I'm going to go take a walk. Or if you want, is there any way you can plug in your headphones and listen to it on your laptop? That way, to avoid the raucous, screaming that is every episode. It's just like she's got a great sense of humor. She's got good taste, but the young one, she's just like, I'm not into it.
And it's weird with that polarizing.
It's an acquired taste, I say. That's
yeah. It's weird with that polarizing because sometimes people have such a strong reaction against. Like, have you ever seen the show? No, I hate that show. I saw one, and I'm like, oh yeah, but it got really good, and it's like no, and that gate is just down.
Yeah.
I try to show my kids like Python to get them into Python. Just like just stuff like that, like the fish slapping dance, or like it's a flesh wound, and they just go, yeah. I go, yeah. They haven't gotten into it yet. But yeah.
My youngest, I try to introduce my youngest son to Python. I just read Keegan-Michael Key's book, The History of Sketch Comedy,
really?
Which was fantastic. I couldn't put it down. And then I just started watching everything randomly, like Kids in the Hall and Python and Mr. Show and Key and Peele and like all these great sketch comedies. And my son was watching them with it. And we finished an episode of Mr. Show and he said like, oh, we need to watch more of this. And I was like, okay, now here's the real stuff, Python. And he was like, by 20 minutes, he was like, just stop it. He's like something. And he walked out of this episode. He's loved the last two episodes.
Really?
And he was just, and he was just like, I got to get something from my room. And he just never came back. And I'm like, and I called upstairs. I was like, do you want me to pause it? And he just heard, I'm all right.
I'm okay. I know what it is. I know. They leave at the Goldilocks thing. Would you leave at the Goldilocks part? When the Goldilocks come back, what's happening here? Why is there porridge? But then it sort of pays off the bears coming back later.
Hippie lentils.
It calls back to like the first part. But it calls back to the first part when the carrot is skating around.
Yeah.
Some things are paid off. Like for a long time, I didn't know why the lentils exploded. And it's
the grenade.
It's because they throw a grenade in when they're shooting the missiles, but it moves so fast that I just thought, all right, random explosion. I do love their reaction.
Happens a lot in this show.
They're just Neil is completely victimized by that situation.
Yeah. Well, because there's another explosion, right? Because they had a rocket launch at the guy, so you think, oh, was it an explosion, that grenade? But you're right. I guess.
But I think they threw the grenade, and so there's like the next scene it explodes.
Yeah. And they just
apparently explosions don't faze them. Not the least.
Yeah.
Now there's a great episode coming up. It's one of my favorite lines of the young ones where the front door explodes for no reason at all. And Rick goes, great. Now the front door's exploded. That's and again, it's that Muppet Show feeling where like something will eat each other, something will explode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also love yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going to talk about the car. The winning the car thing was a very odd thing. Also, like
that was weird.
I felt like that's where it started to run out of steam. I think the car was supposed to pay off the cornflakes, but it just seemed very random.
Oh yeah.
Because right after the racist sketch, which I think was like, I get it for the time. Like it's basically a satire of that the police in England are racist,
right?
Yeah.
But but the salesman shows up and he's like, and he gets shot. and then so then the racist cop gets the car.
Yeah, quite makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the energy just starts to peter out. It's almost
or too many. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like this episode was a manic episode that Summer was having. And the last 2 to 5 minutes is like the manic is going back into the depressive.
Yeah.
It's like we said, it's not an easy episode.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. And it
It's not.
is it bookended with Neil watching, like, so he's watching this morning and he's watching the moon? Is that how his book ended?
yeah, but then a
Kinda,
spaceship
yeah.
lands, so it's another interesting
Spaceship.
thing that they don't that they don't pay attention to.
No idea.
That's right. I forgot about the spaceship. Yeah.
It's funny because like that thing of that they're so oblivious to stuff. That to me is just like it reminds me of like years later, Beavis and Butthead, where they were just completely oblivious to like these earth shattering
Mhm.
wacky events, weird people, just like anything but boring.
Yeah.
But they're completely like
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because they're not smart, and also they're self-obsessed, which is what the characters and the young ones are. They don't
yeah.
care about anything
They're
that's
good at
not
that.
happening to them.
To
You
them.
know, which is why they're making fun of the news while it's happening. Because they even say like Vivian, isn't that your car? And he goes, no, my car's yellow with flames on the side. Well, that car's yellow with flames on the side, but it's not mine.
Oh my god.
So this is a very, very strange episode.
Yeah.
You know.
Who do
Now,
you think? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you.
Well, who do you think comes out the best out of this episode? Like after these episodes, like who do you think was if you had to pick a star of this episode, who would you say is the star of this episode? I'd say
Go ahead.
Rick, maybe. I don't know. Like, yeah.
I feel like it's Mike. I feel like Mike's like
I
like how dry he is in this.
Yeah.
Like when Neil's trying to kill himself, when they're playing Monopoly, which is a slapstick scene. He has this line that just keeps ringing in my head where he's telling Neil to come back in, and he's like, sitting around Christmas playing Monopoly might be a fun time to spend the day, but I don't want to wait that long. It's almost like Groucho level.
Yeah.
Is in this episode. And there's that one where it's like when Ftumtch shows up, and it's like obviously he arrives with brimstone, and they're arguing about who farted.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite Rick lines.
Come from my bottom.
Yeah, there's a horrible farty smell in here, and it's not from my bottom. But he asks Mike, he goes, Mike, have you farted? He goes, who can say? I'm a strange guy.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a great line.
That is a great line.
That's a great line.
Allie, who do you think is the MVP in this?
And the MVP, you know what? I'm going to say probably everyone but them. And I think that's what they were going for. Because like the puppets that they have, these strange characters. I mean, everyone is just like, I'm not saying that these characters were good or I wanted to, puppetry or anything like that. That is just like that, obviously they're the 4 stars of the show. They're the funniest. They're the focal points. But the thing is that like, I think they all kind of take a step back in this episode and let everything else kind of like percolate around them. And to different degrees of interesting, whether it's Vivian's mom, whether it's the Ftumtch, however the hell you pronounce that, the guy down in the cave, the cops. It's almost as if even Alexei Sale. I mean, it's for me, it's just I look at this episode of like, like if I look at like, let's say last week we watched Oil, and I thought that the MVP of the episode was Vivian, because he was just out of control. He was like Animal from the Muppet Show.
Yeah,
it was just he was just pure, just like in your face. He was just loud, and it was in this episode they're almost all a bit. I don't want to say reserved because that's not the word I'm looking for. But they're kind of just like a step back.
That's interesting.
Because I think they're just so in their self-absorption.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing interesting about themselves that they can find.
Yeah.
They're in the center. This episode is like world building. So
yeah.
It's like you take the 4 characters for granted.
Yeah.
It's like when the X-Men go into space. They can only go into space when you figured out everything about mutants and you're no longer surprised by the fact that they're mutants.
Right.
So I feel like that's it. Like, who these 4 characters are. So now we can build stuff around them.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's true. Yeah. But it was, it's great. And like, that's so much of the fun. Like I really didn't know that that's what this show did, but I love all the side bits, all the tangents, all the other things. And like, sometimes it all comes together. And this one is like a lot of separate elements that sort of work together, but you can see what they were going for. And it's pretty awesome, It really
and as we were saying, it seemed like it would be so easy to connect those dots. So I have to feel that they refuse to do it.
Yeah.
I guess in the spirit of anarchy.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
So Mike, now that you've sat through one of the most chaotic episodes, are you inspired to seek out more of the young ones?
I will seek out more of the young ones just to see like what happened. I just want to see other episodes to see if they're all as insane or if it's as like more of like a story or whatever. But like I will seek out other ones. But yeah, it was a surprise. And like I said in Howie, like 20 minutes in, I'm going, oh my, or like 15 minutes in, I'm going, dear God, how much more of this can there be? But it was great though. And it's fun. It's weird. And once you take off the seatbelt and you just kind of give in to and go down the highway with them, it's pretty great. It's really fun and chaotic and strange and wonderful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel the energy that I always think that's why the young ones are the perfect title, because it has that like 20-year-old energy.
Yeah.
And when I was 20 years old, I had a VHS of these and I would just run them and write. And now it's like I watch one and I'm exhausted.
Yeah. It is kind of, But yeah, a lot of great. Yeah, it's a lot of like just discordant yelling for no reason. Just a lot of yelling, like what's happening. But yeah,
I feel like it's like you're moved from a kid to a dad. It's just like if I was in that house, I'd be like, "All right, everybody, shut up! What's going on?"
Of course, yeah.
You get that instinct of like, I need to stop the yelling.
It would push you to the brink of insanity because it's just like there's so much chaos going on. It's almost like it's funny because like some people like their comedy very like linear, whatever. Mm-hmm. This is exact opposite of linear. This is exact opposite. It's almost like, and you're gonna kill me for this, John. It's almost like watching Godzilla. And it always goes back to Godzilla.
Hey, go on. The original,
Wait, the entire franchise?
I'll explain it and as briefly as I can.
You've caught our attention, Howie.
Yes.
Okay. So like when you just like the new Godzilla that came out, -1.
Yeah.
It's just like
the Japanese one. Yeah.
That is a very kind of like serious, deep character, just thought-provoking, just kind of redemption. There's a focus to the story, and it's obviously it was done extremely well, won an Oscar, okay, but it's a kind of a very linear plot that goes along.
Okay.
And then you have on the other side of the coin, you have like Godzilla and Kong and this new Empire thing, which a lot of the shit doesn't make any sense. But the thing is that you just go along for the ride.
So and Godzilla versus Kong is the young ones of the Godzilla franchise?
Because there's so many things that you're sitting there and you're like, my God, that's a huge hole in that plot. Or why? No, that it doesn't. Of course, now I'm comparing this against two guys in rubber suits rolling around and from the 60s and the 70s, but it's just like, well, you have to just suspend your disbelief and go with the ride. That's what the young ones is. Yeah, you just got to suspend your disbelief and just go with the ride.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I guess, and this is, to probably both my credit and to my detriment, sometimes I can go along with the ride and love it. And sometimes the young ones, and sometimes I see something like a Godzilla Kong thing and I'm like, this is stupid.
Well, everybody has their line. That's why I asked you.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you if you wanted to go back. Like, did this cross your line?
No, I hear you. I hear you what you're saying. Like the British comedy can sometimes crosses that line or whatever. You just go, do I find this amusing or is it? But it's also weird because like I wish I could go back to like when was this the late 70s, early 80s?
Early 80s.
Early 80s. I wish I could go back and watch it because like things are so different now. Everything's so shiny and beautiful. And things can cut so fast, and things are tons of jokes, and everything moves so fast. But I wish I could go back to that time and appreciate it in that era, like because like when it's coming out like the sitcom world, then you see this like when things aren't so fast, things don't move so quickly. I wish I could watch it through that lens, you know, and like,
Well,
Yeah.
it's almost to turn it back on you. It's almost like watching the first couple of years of Letterman compared to where you are.
oh yeah, yeah,
Because, you know, Letterman starts in the early 80s and it had that kind of like shabby, flapped together. I always remember watching it as a kid. It seemed like there weren't enough lights on.
yeah.
Like, and I feel like the Young Ones comes from that era of television.
No, that's true, and I love that era that you know, that when things are like not put together, they're not all shiny and beautiful. They're kind of rough around the edges. I mean, that's kind of fun. So the Young Ones does have that fun part, and you can like, even when things don't work, you kind of see like, oh, I see what they're going for, and I'm glad they tried that. I like that they did puppets and they went in his mouth. I'm glad they did that, you know. So even if it's not like a laugh variety, you still go, I appreciate what they're doing, you know, and it's great, you know, like. So this is
It's creative.
Yeah, it is creative. Yeah,
It takes risks, which is a big thing.
And,
Well, Mike,
some of those risks sometimes don't pay off, but that's okay.
yeah, they did them. Yeah.
Well, Mike, I want to thank you so much for coming on and
yes, thank you.
As Howie said, letting go and enjoying the ride.
I enjoyed it, Jon.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It was great, and it got me into the Young Ones. I'm going to watch more. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Mike, is there anything you want to talk about that's coming up for you?
Not really. I have this book. I wrote this series of called the Cryptid Club, which is it's a book for kids. It's a graphic novel for kids where like kids solve they go on crypto related adventures. So the 4th book is coming out in June, and you can pre-order it. That's about it. But yeah. But really, I have nothing to push, nothing to promote. Just happy to be here. But yeah.
Yeah. It's always good to see you. And it's good to see everyone who joins us. And we will be back for the 4th episode of The Young Ones, which will be in a couple of weeks.
And its name?
Oh, damn. You know what? My computer went to standby right when I was looking at the list.
And the name is?
So keep going.
Is it Bomb?
Cover.
Is it Bomb?
Well, I will tell. Well, now we know how long my password is.
When's Bambi? Is Bambi season 1 or season 2?
Bambi is the season 2 premiere.
Oh, really?
Episode 1. Yeah.
I'll watch that.
Oh, Bambi.
All right, I'll watch it.
That's a really good one.
The
next one is Bomb.
Bomb!
Which is a really good one. And as we say, this is right now the DVD is out of print. It's not streaming on anywhere, but YouTube's got them all. So
you can watch it.
No one's pulled them down.
Yeah, a grainy filter. You can try to decipher it. I know.
Yeah, and I mean, it was shot on videotape, so how much were you going to get out of it to begin with?
You know.
Yeah.
But thanks to everybody.
Yay, this is fun.
Talk to you in a couple weeks, and we will still be old and watching the Young Ones.
Yay, as we should.
Bye, everybody.
Because we may not be the young ones.